Hello, and welcome back to the Nourisher podcast. I have a quick question. How many of us are actually comfortable going to a restaurant by ourselves or going to a social event by yourself? Maybe you don't know anyone. I am deathly afraid of doing things like that. And I mean, I am a social person, so I will find someone in the room that I either know or have something in common with in order to bond with them. But I'm just really excited to talk to today's guest because she is fearless when it comes to that. And I admire it so much because I would have an absolute panic attack if I did half the things that she did. I wanted to bring her on so she could kind of talk about how she got to that place and how she got to be so comfortable with who she is in her own company, because it's something that we all need to embrace. So Megan, how are you today?
Oh, I'm just great.
We're going to get cozy and chit chat.
Yeah.
We forgot our wine.
It's a problem.
It's a major problem.
Maybe we should DoorDash.
I love that idea. I always forget that you can Uber Eats like wine and alcohol or even ibuprofen from Walgreens. I forget that you can do that. But also, I went to a luncheon today and I won 3 prizes.
What?
One of those prizes is a bottle of wine. The other prize is a 6-pack of White Claws. And then I got a card game called Inner Circle.
Okay.
But I could have brought it down here so we could have
Darn.
Anywho, I always start talking about how I know our guest. And so I'm very curious to hear your recollection of how we met and how we decided to become friends.
Okay. So my provisional year of junior league, you were our fearless leader. And behind your back, we would all talk about how you're the cool girl.
Oh my God.
Everyone was like, how do we get her to be our friend? She's so cool and she's so pretty and she's so kind. And I just want her to be my friend. And I don't know how it really happened, but you're my friend.
Yeah. Little do you know, it is not very hard to be friends with me because I love friends. No, I'm so glad that that's what you guys were saying behind my back, because it could have been so much worse. And I have to tell you, when I got up in front of y'all every single time, I was having a meltdown inside of my head. It's so strange that I come across so calm, cool, and collected, because on the inside, I'm like, you know that scene from SpongeBob where he's running around and everything's on fire?
Yeah.
99.9% of the time, that is what my brain is like. And so every time I got up to talk to y'all, I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. They're going to think I sound stupid. And I admitted every single day that I should have been in a therapy session right before that happened. But maybe because I admitted it, maybe that's what made me the quote unquote cool girl.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, I love that story for me.
It's all the truth.
If I needed some kind of audio clip advocating for why you should be Kayla's friend.
That's the one.
That's it.
I'm so glad.
I can't wait to use it as a soundbite. I love it. So I want to ask, where are you from? Even though we're not really focused on job titles, I do want to know what you do for a living. And then we'll kind of jump into some things that you like to do for fun, because I know that'll tie into the overall topic for today.
Yeah, so I am a comprehensive financial advisor.
A mouthful.
Indeed. I was born and raised in Amarillo. I went to WT. After I graduated, I moved to Baltimore, Maryland for a few years, and then I moved down to Greenville, South Carolina, which was heavenly. After a few years there, I realized it just wasn't working. I missed my family too much, and so I ended up moving back to Amarillo. And I think I've been back for 6 years now, which is crazy.
What made you want to move to Baltimore?
Yeah, so funny story. I followed a boy. Yeah. Which I think is really the main reason of why I can go out and do things by myself now.
You didn't know anyone other than him when you went to Baltimore?
Not a soul.
Wow. So what were you doing for work?
So it's the craziest story. Some random company had found me on LinkedIn, and they reached out, and I got an interview, which was in a coffee shop in downtown Baltimore. I went through 8 interviews with this company before I knew what the company was. And at the 8th interview, they offered me the job. They literally had me sign a paper and then told me that if I did that, there was a black SUV waiting outside for me to get in.
What?
Right. And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, I die and end up in the harbor or something? Like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
So
That would be the worst thing that could happen to you.
at that time, it just seemed like an adventure. So I signed the form. I got in the black SUV, and they took me to the global headquarters of Under Armour. So there, I was the property manager and event coordinator for Kevin Plank, the founder and CEO of Under Armour. I worked directly under him. I got to do all kinds of different fun events. I got to meet Shaun White, Tom Brady, Misty Copeland, Ray Lewis, Cam Newton. I mean, so much fun.
I have 2 questions.
Uh-huh.
One, how have we never talked about this? This is the first time I'm hearing about any of this.
It was so much fun.
Okay, second question. How come you're not married to a pro athlete and taking us on lots of lavish vacations?
So my favorite that I ever met was Shaun White because I had the biggest crush on him.
Okay.
So whenever Kevin called me, we were trying to sign Shaun as an athlete. And so I got the call that Thursday afternoon, we were going to have him come in. And one of the buildings that we had was called City Garage. And so it's basically like the whole industry. They would find these like small companies and give them like incubation spaces. One of them was a skateboard shop. And they said that like, we're trying to sign Shaun. So make it seem super normal that on Thursdays after work, we have pizza and beer and just have everyone hang out. So that's what we did. I had the whole City Garage full. People are drinking beer, eating pizza, skateboarding through the City Garage as Shaun White's just like having a tour with Kevin Plank. We didn't end up signing Shaun. And on his Wikipedia, it says he's like 5'11". Well, I'm 5'9.5", and he's shorter than me. So that's why I'm not married to Shaun White.
That's very fair. Okay, yeah, that sounds like the coolest job.
It was great.
So then after Baltimore, you said you went to South Carolina?
Yes. So I moved down to Greenville, South Carolina. I actually there took a 6-month sabbatical. I moved down to the beach and I saved sea turtles for 6 months. It was the most meaningful 6 months of my life. So that's my retirement plan also.
To care for turtles.
Yes, love the turtles.
I love that. I don't think I know very much about sea turtles.
Oh.
But now I do want to know more.
I'll tell you all the things. So after sea turtle season was over, I moved back to Greenville's kind of in the mountains. And so I moved back over to Greenville. And there, funny enough, another super weird job that they found me. I was a video producer for TTI. So I did all of their commercials for Home Depot corporate. I had Rigid, Ryobi, Milwaukee, Stoke, and Arctic Cove under me. So anything that you saw on Instagram or TV or any of that, I would produce all of those videos. So I got to find the talent. I got to get the snacks. I got to do location. One time we filmed a portion of a vacuum commercial in my house.
I want to be the snack girl.
Oh my gosh, it's called Craft.
Yes, craft service.
Yes.
I learned that from Gossip Girl.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's true. And Craft is the best.
Pause. What was your degree in at WT?
Oh, funny enough, managing and marketing. Doesn't that make perfect sense?
I mean, in a sense, it kind of does, because I think that those of us who go into marketing and communications in that type of realm, there's really no telling what you're going to do, right? You kind of just get pulled in all these weird different directions. And so that makes a little bit more sense. I thought you were going to come out with like accounting.
Oh, yeah, no.
And speaking of Gossip Girl, have you seen Gossip Girl?
No.
Oh, sad day. Well, one of the main characters is Blake Lively's character, Serena. Tall and blonde and beautiful and outgoing and fun-loving. And you remind me of Serena.
Ooh.
For all the good reasons. She often finds herself with all these random jobs. And she's kind of like that lucky girl, sort of, you know, so things kind of fall in her lap. And so the fact that you're telling me this about your past, I'm like, you are Serena.
I mean, that's exactly what happened. I did not apply for either of those positions. they just fell in my lap.
And when you moved to South Carolina, did you know anyone there?
No one.
That's insane. What did your family think? Were they nervous for you?
I mean, yeah. So whenever I was a kid, my dad always said, like, you're not allowed to ever move to California. And so I was like, okay, Dad, like, I'm not going anywhere. Whenever I told him I was going to move to Baltimore, Maryland, he was like, I thought that you were going to go west, if anything. Why are you moving to the East Coast? Who goes there? My dad was so concerned that he's never going to see me again. I'm not going to make it home for holidays. I'm not going to make it home for this, that, or the other. And I was so convinced, being young and dumb, that I was going to get to come home 6 to 8 times a year and see my family all the time. And it just doesn't work that way. So whenever I moved down to South Carolina, obviously that's a little bit closer. And so they were glad about that. But I thought that I was coming closer to Texas the whole time and not staying on the East Coast. After coming home, it was great to be back here because I just love my family so much.
And you mentioned moving to those places is kind of what got you comfortable doing things on your own. So did you not have that sort of spirit when you were growing up here?
Oh, no, not at all. You know, it's funny. I actually worked 4 jobs to put myself through college. So one of them was actually in this building, and the lady that I worked for, she told me to walk across the street and go get us lunch. I was so scared to walk across the street by myself as like an 18-year-old. I was so convinced I was going to get kidnapped. I made her stay on the phone with me and watch me out the window. So no, it was all like a totally new chapter in my life whenever I moved.
That's a complete 180 from not being able to walk across the street.
It's so embarrassing.
I'm not that nervous. I watch a lot of Law and Order. So I'm constantly thinking I'm going to be kidnapped.
Oh yeah. Forensic Files is like my jam.
Yes. So again, I'm a little bit better now that I'm older and people don't want me anymore. Just kidding. Okay, so obviously moving to a complete other state where you only knew one person.
Yeah.
How did you start getting out of your comfort zone? Like, how did you get to a place where you're like, I'm just going to do this?
Yeah. So when I followed the boy and we moved to Baltimore, we were together here in Texas for a couple of years. And he enjoyed doing things and going out and being with friends and new restaurants and whatever. When we moved, he didn't enjoy that anymore. And so it's almost like he was just putting on this front of a different person. And then when we left and I didn't have anyone, he wasn't the same person either. Mm-hmm. So I realized that if I wanted to go and try the restaurants or go to the concert or whatever it was, I had to go alone. And up in the East Coast, especially Baltimore, it is really hard to make friends. But I guess it was just like something that was like super random and like it just clicked in me that hopefully I'm only going to be here for a certain amount of time. And I'm obsessed with food.
Same.
So before I moved up to Baltimore, I did my research and I looked at every place that was on the Food Network or any sort of like a food blog or something like that. And so I had just like a binder of different restaurants, what they were known for, what area of Baltimore they're located in. And so my hobby was eating all of it. I would ask him if he wanted to go have wings at this place with these honey habanero, whatever, on diners, drive-ins, and dives. And of course, he wasn't interested. So I just got to a point where I was like, well, I want to go. And so I learned to just go alone. My favorite place was an oyster place. And the oyster shucker's name was Jimmy. And he was a doll. Riley's Oyster is what it was called. And they would do dollar oysters on like Tuesday nights. So I would go by myself and go get $12 oysters and like a glass of wine. And I really got to know Jimmy, and Jimmy was my friend, and I used to go see him all the time. I'm realizing that I can make friends and I can go and meet people and enjoy being out and people watching, and I'm fine by myself.
I think it's great that you took that initiative. I mean, I hate that the person that you moved to a complete different part of the country for, I mean, because he didn't know anyone either, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, like, he was from Rhode Island, so we were really close to his family, but he didn't care.
Sure. Yeah, I hate that you didn't have that support. And, you know, again, these are early relationships. We learn a lot when we are 18 to even 30. But you kind of took your experience into your own hands, because I think that's what's so crazy about this entire story is that you moved because you were dependent on someone else and someone else to contribute to your happiness and your future, and then all of a sudden you get there and it completely shifts, and so then you had to become responsible for all of those things on your own.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of us don't even know how to do that now, or you know, I know people who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s even who have a very hard time with taking control after something hasn't necessarily gone their way.
Well, to be fair, like if I wasn't in a place like that I had to, I don't know that I would ever have done this. Like, I don't know that I would have ever been able to do it without being forced to.
Yeah, for sure. I know you do a lot of things by yourself. So what else? I mean, let's stick with Baltimore, or maybe when you move down to South Carolina, down, up, across.
Yeah, down.
Jeez Louise.
Very down. Just a couple
Very
states
down.
south.
I wasn't good at geography in case you haven't noticed. When you moved down to South Carolina, what other things did you decide to just try on your own? And of those things, what stuck with you?
Yeah. So obviously, like the sea turtle thing, that was okay. That's also a crazy story. So I was very upset that we were moving to South Carolina. First of all, I didn't know a lot about South Carolina. He had promised me that we were going to move to like Colorado. So that's a big difference. So whenever I took my little sabbatical, I had reached out to, 20 plus different sea turtle programs on the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. And no one would accept me because Greenville is 3 hours from the closest beach. So all of the programs were just like, well, you don't live close enough. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I've got enough money in the bank that for 6 months I will find some extended, place to live. I'll rent something, and I'm willing to spend that 6 months of my life dedicated to the turtles. And no one would take me. And so I finally found one on Harbor Island, and I reached out to this lady, and she ran the program, and she was probably in her early 80s at the time, late 70s or so. And she ran the whole program.
Wow.
So I reached out to her and asked if I could help, and she said, absolutely. So she had a little condo on the beach that she rents out, and she said that I could just rent that from her. Well, that was perfect. Like a week before it was time for me to go down there, she had reached out again and said that she rented it out, but she had a spare room in her house.
Oh my God.
And her and her husband are okay if I just stay in the spare room.
I mean, knowing that she was 80 years old makes me feel a little bit better about the situation, but that gives me, that makes me cringe so hard.
Yeah. So I get down there. Our first night, we cooked dinner together, and after dinner, she opened a bottle of wine, and we went to go sit out on the patio, and she looked at me and she's like, I don't know, what we're going to do. I need to know, are you going to kill us?
She asked
me. And I was like, no, are you going to kill me? So we had this moment, and she was like, what kind of a crazy person just comes to stay with someone in their house?
But she invited you.
That's what I said. And so we did a little cheers with our wine, and we had a great 6 months together.
Wow.
So it was great. But again, just kind of landed in my lap. I did reach out for that one. Whenever I made it back over to Greenville, I love to go hiking. And so there are a lot of really great small hikes in the area. And so I would just go on little hikes by myself. I used to go paddleboard a lot in Lake Jocassee, which is gorgeous. Up in South Carolina, it was like 45 minutes from my house, and I'd go do that by myself, even though I don't know how to swim.
Oh my gosh.
But again, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to drown.
Die. You will die. You must have, 9 lives that you're willing to spare.
I just figure if I'm going to go out, it might as well be some way good, right?
And have fun doing it.
Exactly. So I'm good with it. Other than that, like I kind of had a pretty decent group of friends in South Carolina, and so I wasn't alone a lot. But then whenever I came back home to Amarillo, it's like I traveled a lot for work. I opened a new branch down in San Antonio, and there was a Spurs game that night, and I'd never been to a professional basketball game. And so I got like an $8 ticket up in the nosebleeds. Whenever I finally got up to my seat, I looked on like Ticket Hub or whatever, it's like still open. And I just like migrated up to open seats that were still for sale.
That's genius.
I bought an $8 ticket and I ended up like 12 rows from the court.
You are Serena Woodsen, just so you know. Oh my gosh.
So it's like, okay, well, I can go to a basketball game by myself. I can go out to eat by myself. I like to go to concerts by myself. A few months ago, I was in Denver, and I randomly found a ticket to Zach Bryan for $50 at the Broncos Stadium. That was great. I had some really great people sitting by me. It was fun.
I think a concert would be one of those things I would want to do by myself because, your favorite song comes on and then the person with you decides that they need to tell you all their life story. Yeah. And I'm like, not right now. And, you just want to like relive it over and over again. I think that would be one thing that would definitely be worth it.
Yeah.
There are so many things that you've done that I wish that I could do that.
Well, I keep telling you, like, traveling by yourself is the best.
So remember, when I was going through my divorce, I talked to you about like going to Fredericksburg and renting one of those really cool looking tree cabins. And I would have my phone with me because my mother would have a heart attack if I just completely went off the grid. But putting my phone on silent and not turning on the TV and just going on walks by myself. But then the other part of me that watches all of these crime shows thinks, this is exactly how women get kidnapped, murdered, sold on the black market. Like, that is not how I want to go out. But also, if it works out, how awesome and how beautiful of a memory do I have? And it's just for me. I'm the only one who got to experience it and see it. Yeah. So I'm so jealous because I think I just need to do it one time.
It would totally change your life. Okay, so whenever I finally decided that I was leaving my ex, I had been back here in Texas visiting my family for like 2 weeks. I had asked him, I said, I would really like to go to Charleston. It's only 2.5, 3 hours away. We've never been. I'd really like to go. And he's like, well, what do you want to do there? And I was like, well, I want to go see the Angel Oak Tree. I want to go see Rainbow Row. I want to eat all the oysters. I just want to check it out. And I asked him if he wanted to go, and he's like, no, I don't think so. And so we had a group of friends that we'd hang out with. We're all planning to rent a cabin or whatever on the lake, rent a boat, and just hang out. Do you want to go? No, I don't think so. We're going to go up to Asheville and float the river. There are a bunch of like breweries on the river. Do you want to go and float? No, I don't think so. So at that point, I'm like, you know what? Like, first of all, in my head, I'm like, this is over. And so right there in the car, I booked my trip to Charleston. Whenever I got to Charleston, I was walking down Rainbow Row. And if you've never been, the streets are cobblestone.
Yes, Charleston is on my bucket list for sure.
Love it. You should go alone. Or I'll go with you because it's great.
Oh, Lord.
But I'm wearing like heels, skinny wedges, right?
On cobblestone.
On cobblestone. So I'm like hobbling down the cobblestone trying to get to this restaurant that I want to go to. And this woman, like probably in her 60s, like speed walks past me. And then she stops and turns around and she said, "You're not from here, are you?" And I was like, no, I'm not. And she's like, where are you going? And I told her whatever restaurant, and she was like, oh, don't go there. Go to this place next door. They have better drinks. And I'm like, all right, whatever. She was like, I'll buy your first one. So I'm like, okay, great. So I go and sit down with her. She walks into this restaurant. We sit down at the bar, and she knows everyone. So they're like, oh, do you want your regular? And she's like, make me two. This is my new friend. And so I ended up meeting her that first night that I was in town. We were leaving and she was like, do you want me to show you around? Like, there are a couple of great spots that you just can't miss. We had already discussed, I'm here alone, whatever. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But can I change shoes? I was like, my car's right out from where you saw me. And she was like, great. My house is across the street. She lives in the pink house on Rainbow Row. So she showed me, took me into her house and showed me her cute little house. It was precious. I put on some tennis shoes and we walked the town until 1 o'clock in the morning and had the best time.
Okay. I just need you to know that after people listen to this, I am no longer the cool girl.
Whatever.
You definitely take the title of cool girl. Because everybody wants to be your friend, Megan, even strangers. And these cute little old ladies are just inviting you into their home and trusting that you're not going to kill them.
Well, they're just so precious. I'm just an old soul. And so they see it.
That makes sense. Well, that brings up such a good point when you were talking about how your ex never wanted to do anything. And it's not just when it comes to relationships, but let's say family dynamics, right? My family for the longest time has been saying, instead of doing Christmas presents or trying to all get together to just hang out at the house, let's go on a cruise and let's invite extended family or in-laws and all that. And we've literally never been able to make it happen because we're relying on everyone else's schedule.
Right.
And if we have to do that, we'll never go.
Right.
And not to say that there's anything wrong with trying to be accommodating and getting everybody to go on the trip, but also I want to do those things. And if I have to wait until it's convenient for everyone else, I won't do it.
Right.
I always would look at Groupon and I would see these trips and it's, of course, only limited time that you get it for that price. And I would think, okay, I'm just going to do it. But then I start looking at cost of everything. And then my logical side comes out and I'm like, okay, but then I have to take off this much time from work. I don't want to go alone. So who am I going to invite? Can they take off from work? And then it just never works out.
Yeah.
The times that I've had the best times of my life have been when I just spontaneously, I may have bought a ticket to a concert and I've bought 2 tickets thinking someone will go with me. And if they don't, then I'll sell the tickets.
Right.
But I need to get in your mindset and I just need to do it because then I would never miss out on an opportunity.
And let me tell you, 1 ticket, you can get crazy seats for super cheap because no one wants 1 ticket.
That's true. I just think there's so many lessons that we can take from your experience because seriously, I need to stop waiting on other people to be on board if I want to do something.
Yeah.
A lot of us out there are going to be like, well, that's just not safe.
I might have a death wish. I don't know.
Like I said, my mom would throw a fit if I did not have my phone by me. But it's you kind of taking your experience into your own hands and not waiting or relying on anyone else. And that's so powerful. I don't know if you realize how brave that makes you and how powerful that is for you as a human, but also as a woman and a working woman. It's huge.
Huh. I guess it's funny. I don't see it that way. I've just lived like this for so long that it's it's me. It's just how I do things. What's crazy is, so next week I'm going to Salt Lake City by myself. And I almost, rather than going to Salt Lake City, I was going to go to Mexico. by myself.
What?
Yeah, my husband said that that's where he draws the line. I'm not allowed to go to Mexico by myself, which is crazy.
It sounds great, but yeah, I think I agree with Scott on this one.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, and then work trips. I have been on a few work trips where I would go to really cool places. I went to New Orleans on a work trip. And yes, there's so many cool things to see in New Orleans, so many cool things to do. But the only thing that popped in my head was it has an unreal crime rate, like so high. It's so scary. My parents were telling me, you don't go anywhere by yourself. You don't walk anywhere by yourself. My coworkers were telling me that because they're all men and they're very protective. And so they were like, no, do not do that. And I remember sitting in my hotel room and I wanted to try some really good food, like local food. And I DoorDashed it. And I had DoorDashed some crab of some sort. And I'm also not a seafood eater. I just was trying to get the full experience. But I had to DoorDash it because everyone was making me so scared that something would happen to me if I started walking. And so I ordered this food. It came and it was soggy.
Yeah.
It was not nearly as good as I'm sure. And who knows, it could have been a really horrible restaurant that I ordered it from. So that might have been on me. I was really sad because I am also a big foodie. Like I want to go find all the popular restaurants and I love atmospheres.
Right.
And so I was sad that I had to miss out on that. And, you know, one day after our conference let out, I finally just decided that I'm going to walk. Because my hotel was not too far from the convention center. And all of those buildings were so old but beautiful, you know, like they're old and they're gorgeous. And I just wanted to take pictures of them. And there were so many other people walking too, because there were other conferences in town. So I did feel a little bit more safe with numbers, but it was awesome. Like I was breathing in the fresh air and I was like, I am having the best time doing this. And so why do I not do that? I also let other people's opinion and their perception of where I was going keep me from having the overall experience that I wanted to.
Well, you know, like it is something that you have to be aware of. You know, being a woman and being in certain places, like I do agree, like New Orleans is a little dangerous, but at the same point, like there are certain things that you can do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're not going to put yourself in a situation that is like more dangerous.
Sure.
Somewhere that I was last year by myself and same sort of a thing. I wanted to go out, but it was dark and I'm alone and I'm a woman. So how do I do this and not get snatched? It was cold, luckily. So I remember that like I wrapped my scarf around my head, didn't wear any jewelry, and like just like walked to where I was going. If I'm doing something like that, like I don't have a purse. Like I've got a little fanny pack that's under my shirt. And so I've got my credit card, I've got my phone, I've got my lip gloss, but I'm not a Target, right? Mm-hmm. And so got to my restaurant, had my dinner, wrapped back up and went back to my little hotel, you know? And so it's like, there are certain points where, you know, you can't always do that, you know, and I'm not blind to that. But to me, I would rather have the experience than look back and be like, well, you know, like I was in San Antonio and I've never been to a Spurs game and I could have gone, but I'm scared. There's a time and a place for it. So
thank you for pointing out that you do think about safety.
I do.
I know we've talked about that, and I know your husband gets kind of nervous a little because you're just so spontaneous. I think it's really important for us to be safe, but there's still a way to do the things we want to do and be safe.
Yeah.
Because so you were talking about a Spurs game.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in New Orleans, I had two coworkers who just happened to be there at a different conference. And luckily, they invited me to dinner one night, and then they invited me to go to a NBA basketball game.
Oh, how fun.
And it was my first one ever. I had been in cities where I could go to an NBA game, but I was alone and I didn't want to do it. And so it took those two saying, hey, tag along. I found tickets for $5. We want, you know, if you want something to do tonight, come with us. And it's amazing how much more comfortable I am and more open to doing fun things when there's a group of people going.
Right.
And I don't always want to be that way. Like, I do want to be surrounded by people, don't get me wrong. I do think sometimes when I travel alone, it's not as fun. I'll hear you come back from trips where you were alone for work, and I'm like, oh, how was wherever you went? And you're like, it was a blast. I did this, and I met an 80-year-old woman, and and so I'm always so envious of that, because I want that kind of like adventurous spirit. It's wild to me that you don't even think of yourself really as adventurous. It's just, I want to do it and I'm going to do it.
Right.
What kind of solo trips do you have coming up? And what are some things that you plan on doing?
So I've got Salt Lake City right around the corner. I leave on Sunday. I get back on Saturday. So I'm gone for 6 days by myself. I've been looking at some restaurants. So I'm going to just eat everything.
Naturally.
Of course. I have 2 days that I'm going snowboarding.
Alone.
I was looking at like what concerts are in the area. I found a couple like comedy shows. That might be fun. I don't think I've ever been to a comedy show. So that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be the best.
Yeah. I am a little obsessed with that new show. Sisters, what's the Mormon Wives thing?
Secrets of Mormon Wives or something like that.
Something like that. So obviously I'm going to go to Swig and get a Coke with creamer in it. I don't know. The highlights of the trip. I do have actually an old friend that lives up there that I haven't talked to in forever. And so I reached out to him and asked like, what do I need to do? Where do I need to go? What do I need to see? And just kind of go from there. I think that there's like the Arches are close by. I'll go out there. Go over to Park City. I don't know what there is to do, but I'm going to find it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is when you're in a city alone for 6 days, you don't want to just go right back to your hotel room and go to the hotel bar and come right back up. You know, you need to embrace all that time and take advantage of it. And so I think we would all be shocked to know how many of us, unfortunately, live our lives like that when we travel alone.
Right.
I think you should do a comedy show for sure.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
So I don't know if you've ever seen Morgan J, but he sings. He has like an auto-tune microphone and he sings a lot of his jokes.
Yes.
He's hilarious.
Yes.
I had looked at his comedy shows the other day and I was again trying to align his schedule with my schedule, John's schedule, my friend's schedule, like who can go with me? And not to say that I want to go alone. I would rather enjoy that with somebody, but I'm going to miss out on all of the 2025 tour dates because no one can go with me.
Yeah.
So maybe I should just buy it and go.
That'd be a good one.
Like I said, I want you to realize like how brave you are for real. In so many ways, because not a lot of people do these things and take these chances and take these adventures, but also because you had the strength to say, no, I'm in control and I get to decide how I get to live my life. And I get to decide that I won't miss out on these experiences simply because someone else doesn't want to.
Right.
I think that's very hard for people in general to do. But you did it at such a young age. And that's what's mind-blowing to me. And the fact that you still live your life this way and embrace it and you encourage your friends and your family to be that way. I hope you understand how inspiring it really is, like as your friend.
That was very sweet of you, Keeler.
I'm making Megan so uncomfortable right now.
Just a little, yeah, I can't take a compliment.
It's fine.
You can keep that to yourself.
I'm horrendous at compliments, so it's fine. I get it. Okay, so I want to wrap up with a couple of questions.
Okay.
I know everyone loves on the spot questions, so.
Yeah, so much. I'm so excited.
Okay, what is something that not a lot of people might know about you?
I am allergic to acrylic nails.
I get my nails done religiously every 2 to 3 weeks. I cannot imagine not having anything on my nails. I'm not saying it looks bad.
It does.
Because I saw like 3 girls today without any nails, polish, acrylic, anything. They didn't have anything on it. And I was like, gosh, I want to be okay with not having anything on my nails, but I feel like a bridge troll if I don't.
Yeah, I know. I look at your nails and I'm like, ugh, in a former life.
But it's also expensive. When I ask these questions, I get all kinds of answers. But that is the first time that one like that has come up, and I absolutely love it. That might be my favorite answer, actually.
I was going to say that I used to do figure skating like routines in the intermission of hockey games, but I feel like the acrylic nails was better.
I feel like you have a toolbox full of interesting facts about Megan.
Maybe.
We might have to come back and, again, episode Megan part 2, all the things you didn't know about her.
Okay, interesting.
And most of it's going to be about sea turtles.
Okay, love that.
Okay, second question is, who are 3 women that you look up to or who inspire you?
Okay. You're going to think this is dumb, but listen, you have been through so much since I've known you.
That is a fact.
And like whatever it is, like you are so resilient, and you open the next chapter and it's fresh and it's clean. You go about it and it's just like whatever it is, you conquer it. And you turn around and you're stronger for it. And it's amazing.
Remember when we were talking about not being able to accept compliments? I really appreciate you saying that. We've talked about how long it's taken each of us to find our circle of people, and I'm just so blessed that I finally have people in my life who see me and what I can give back. And so I appreciate that, one, that I'm even included in this list.
Well, yeah.
But also just that you see that in me.
Of course. Okay. Number 2. My mother-in-law, Lisa, she just has the biggest heart. She conquered breast cancer a couple of years ago, and she went through so much. I lost my aunt to breast cancer just a few months before she was diagnosed. She conquered it, and she's better for it, and that's amazing to me. And then I would say my dad's ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
Kelly. She's like such a close friend to me. Her and my dad dated for years, off and on, for a long time. Whenever I was in my early years of college, she was who I worked for in this building and watched me walk across the street for lunch. And in all honesty, like she pushed me to do a lot of the things that started building who I am. She pushed me to go on a spring break trip whenever I was 20 and go down to Panama City, Florida. She pushed me to go ahead and follow that boy and move to Baltimore, because why not? And so in a lot of ways, she is kind of the driving factor in what was like that it's okay in the back of my mind. And those are just 3 really important ladies in my life.
I know. I met Kelly when we were planning stuff for your wedding, and I know how much she means to you. But yeah. I love that women sometimes don't even realize how much we push and inspire other people and other women, especially around us. And so I'm sure Kelly wasn't calculated when she was trying to get you to do certain things, or that she would even know how it would allow you to grow into the person that you are today, because that was years and years ago.
Right.
And so the fact that we can kind of return the favor and say, hey, just so you know, like you pushed me to do this and you're a large part of who I am.
Right.
I think that's really awesome to be able to turn around and tell our friends that they have that effect on us.
Yeah.
And especially someone like her, when she's not involved in your life, you know, she doesn't have to be.
Right. But she's like my second mom forever. She's my great friend. Even whenever I was in South Carolina and I was going through hard times, like she was the person that I called, and I'm like, give me some clarity here, you know? So she's a huge part of my life.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know you didn't think you had much to say, but I hope in the midst of our conversation that you kind of see differently.
Yeah, for sure.
You definitely have had a lot of life experience in the short time that you've been on this planet. And so, again, I'm going to encourage you. You have to get on Netflix and watch Gossip Girl because you're going to watch Serena and you, I think, will be baffled at how similar your lives are.
Okay, I'm excited.
Her character, in a sense, is just very inspiring because she is like, she's fun, she's spontaneous, like everybody wants to be friends with her, everybody wants to be her, and she's not afraid to take chances. And those are the things that I see in you. So normally I ask people where they can follow you or where they can learn more about you, but I just want to give you an opportunity to plug anything that you'd like to.
Yeah, so if you are going anywhere and need any recommendations, feel free to reach out. I'm on all the things.
All the platforms.
All of them, I think.
Seriously, though, Megan can give you a huge list of restaurants, where to stay, what to do, what not to do.
For sure.
I love you. And I'm so glad that you're in my life. I'm so glad that we're friends now.
You're the sweetest and the coolest girl.
And you're going to teach me how to be even cooler because I'm going to do things on my own and I'm going to start baking.
Yes.
Again, Megan part 3. Baking. You're going to have so many episodes.
That's so much fun. That one we can do with a video so we can just bake together.
I will be on one side and it'll be what not to do.
Oh,
and
please.
You be on the other side and it's like, this is the right way. It could be a Netflix series.
It could. Like Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg.
Well, stay tuned for our Netflix series on baking. But thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, we encourage you to share it with a woman who inspires you, or maybe someone you just want to hear this message that Megan had for us today. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, stay strong, stay connected, and keep growing.